From here on, it's going to be in English. I'm going to be talking about breaking the hotel addiction to OTAs, something that's very big in the United States, and I understand it's also being big in the European market, and talk about the power of iCRM and what we're doing for some of our hotels in order to help break that addiction. On the agenda today, we're going to start with a quiz because there's so many students here, and then we're going to talk about the independent European hotel addiction problem, followed by a proven road to recovery, talking about iCRM, and provide two quick hotel case studies and how it's worked. Okay, here's the quiz. What do all of these have in common? Chocolate, sex, alcohol, and OTAs. I'll give you the answer. Used in moderation, they can be beneficial and good for you. Haha. Taken to excess, they can become addictive and hazardous to your physical and financial health. So there was a study that was published in December by Focusrite and H2 Research that talked about the issues of OTAs in both the US and the European markets. And a lady named Sarah McKay wrote an article about it, and the headline of the article was, European hotels need to break the OTA stranglehold. Stranglehold, addiction, pretty much the same. And here's the first sentence and a half of the article that she wrote. Independent hotels in Europe need to work hard to drive direct bookings and move away from their dependence on online travel agencies. Then the next half sentence reads, in fact, their very existence might depend upon it. So it's pretty strong words. Let's talk about the hotel addiction. Let's talk about the European issue right now. Research shows that close to half of all European hotel bookings come from the online channel. This wouldn't be very bad if all of that was going directly to the hotels. From my perspective, I work with hotels. But the truth is, nearly 75% of all independent European hotel online revenue comes from OTAs. This is higher than chains in Europe, chains in the US, or independent hotels in the United States as well. So from that information, you can surmise, you can deduce that the average independent European hotel receives almost a third of its revenue via the OTAs. They're also paying a 25% commission or more. So one of the things about OTAs is they don't charge a commission. Unlike travel agents, and you pay a travel agent a commission. So on the budget, there's a line item for travel agent commission. There is no line item on a hotel for OTA commissions. They get net rates. So hotels need to figure out how much they're actually paying the OTAs. And we developed the hidden cost calculator, is what we call it. And it is actually on, if you go to marketingluxuryhotels.com, scroll down a couple of pages, you'll find this, and you'll be able to put in the information for your own specific hotel. So I wanted to see what an average independent hotel in Europe, a luxury hotel, may have to pay in commissions to the OTA. So put in the number of rooms, 250 rooms, mid-size hotel. Average annual occupancy, 65%. Their average daily rate is 400 euros. The OTAs represent a third, just using the average from before, 30% of their revenue, and the OTA commission margin of 25%. And you push update on that, and you get nearly $1.8 million from one hotel going to the OTAs. It's a lot of money. Now you think about the European Hotel Managers Association, that's 450 4- and 5-star luxury hotels throughout Europe. You multiply this number by 450, and they, as a group, contribute about $800 million worth of revenue to the OTAs, which is pretty high, I think. I want to talk about the definition of CRM, but I only want you to concentrate on the first three words. It's known as customer relationship management, and the last three words is driving sales and growth. These are very complex systems done by Salesforce and Oracle and SAP and so on that are very complex systems that are put in place to manage the customer life cycle, to do one thing, to drive revenue. That's the idea. The secret to breaking the OTA addiction. Have you ever had what they call an aha moment? All of a sudden, the clouds disappear and the sun comes out and shines down and you have an idea, something that you've been working on for a long time, and all of a sudden there's a major breakthrough. Sort of like when Newton had the apple fall on his head and all of a sudden gravity appeared. Or when Einstein discovered relativity and all things changed in the world of physics. I had an aha moment a couple of years ago. I was reading a book called The Loyalty Effect, The Hidden Force Behind Growth, Profits, and Lasting Value. It was written by a fellow named Richard Reichart, who was a senior analyst at Bain, a senior partner at Bain. And over his career, he analyzed hundreds and hundreds of companies across many, many different industries. And he put all the knowledge that he had into this particular book. Halfway through the book, as I'm reading it, I read this sentence. Companies with the most loyal customers are also the most profitable. It isn't companies with the most sales that are the most profitable. It's those with the most loyal customers. And as a result of that, instead of working on CRM, I came up with the idea of iCRM. And that's integrated customer relationship marketing, not management, and it's integrated, refers to practices, strategies, and technologies that companies use to analyze customer interactions and data, to manage the customer life cycle, and build loyal brand advocates, not sales. You need to build loyal brand advocates, people that will come back to you, people that once they become advocates will start advertising your product, your hotel, telling their friends and relatives, and actively engaged. We integrate sales and marketing, we focus on building loyal brand advocates, and we eliminate the emphasis on driving sales. Let's talk about managing the customer life cycle, because this is important. You start with awareness. They're never going to buy you if they're never aware of you. Then you finally get them as a customer. You grow them, have them come back, and you retain them as a customer, and over time, you turn them into advocates. And this is what marketing can do. So you have a hotel. They have an experience at the hotel. You want to keep that experience alive after they've gone or before they come back. And so it's really a circle. It's before, during, and after. You have to continue to turn them into brand advocates. This is the way a lot of hotels in the United States work. They are, let's say, frugal. Some people say cheap. They want to buy things on an as-needed basis. So they go out, they need some advertising. They hire an advertising agency. Then they need some public relations. They hire public relations. Oh, we need a new website. Oh, we do some email. Time to get into social media. Then maybe we need some direct marketing. Each one of these companies are in their own silo. They don't talk to one another. It's impossible to get them to talk to one another. And then on the client side, you have the sales, the call center, events, and they're in their own little sphere, they're in their own little silos, and they don't talk to one another. So the secret is to integrate sales and marketing. So what we have, I started off as a consultant in the business. After working in large advertising, started my firm consulting. And what happened was, I was consulting in hotels, and they said, well, gee, that's really nice, but how do we execute it? I said, well, okay, well, I'll hire a PR firm and work with them, and I'll hire a web developer, I'll have an advertising agency, so on. And I tried to manage them, and I came from advertising. It was impossible to manage them. We weren't paying them enough money to actually spend the time and energy in order to do what we wanted to do. So at one time, they needed a PR firm, and I told the clients, I said, listen, let me hire a PR person, bring them in-house. Later on, let me hire a web person, bring it in-house. So all of a sudden, we had everybody under one roof. All the services under one roof. We talk to our clients on a weekly or bi-weekly basis. We sit down, we have all of those disciplines around the table. We start off talking about sales, what's going on, how we're doing, are there things that we need to do, are there programs that we need to put into place to help December, so on and so forth. And then, when we leave the room, we have an open office, desk open office. We all talk to one another. So we trade ideas off back and forth all week long until the next meeting. This doesn't happen in the disintegrated, siloed environment. The foundation of iCRM really is the database, because what you want to do is be talking to customers on a one-to-one basis. There are, in many hotels, many different databases. You have your property management system. You may have somebody who's in charge of weddings. You have a database of people who signed up for your newsletter. You have all these different databases, and none of them are integrated. They now have CRM software where you can centralize all that data. And you can talk to people on a one-to-one basis. You know whether they're a prospect, whether they're looking for a wedding, whether they're an events manager, whether they're a past guest, whether they're a lapsed guest and you want to invite them back, you can talk to them on a one-to-one basis. So this is really the model for what we call iCRM. Let me go quickly and give you 2 case studies. This is the Somerset. This is a villa hotel with 1 to 5 bedroom villas that rent for anywhere from $500 to $5,000 a night. It also happens to be located on what TripAdvisor calls the #1 beach in the world and on the #1 island in the world, in Providenciales on Grace Bay Beach in Turks and Caicos. You look at that, you have those assets, and you think to yourself, you must be printing money, like the casino next door. It's got to be coming out of the walls. It wasn't. There was a problem with the hotel. Here is, let me just explain this briefly. This is an index, a 12-month moving average index, because there's a lot of seasonality. You can't look at on a month-to-month basis. So what we do is we take 12 months worth of data, January through December. What's the revenue? Divided by 12. Then we go to the next 12-month period. We go to February through January, and then March through February, and just move it along there, divided by 12. If the month you're picking up is higher than the month you're dropping off, you see a little uptick. This is what was happening with the Somerset. Go back all the way to 2008. They reached their peak right as the financial crisis happened in New York, and then the global financial crisis as well. They dropped immediately, went through 2010, thought they were coming out of it, as most hotels did. They came out by the end of 2010, and by the end of 2011, they were pretty much where they were pre-recession. That didn't happen with the Somerset. So I want to talk about just one of the programs, because this is important, and it talks about integration and engagement, okay? If you're going to have a customer relationship marketing program, the heart of that is a relationship. You can't have a relationship if you're the only one talking. You have to have and engage your customers into a dialogue. Get them talking, get them sharing, get them spending their time thinking about your product. Here's one way we did it. This is the 10th anniversary for the Somerset. So he said, let's put together a promotion. The tagline for the Somerset is share treasured times. So we're actually asking people to share their treasured times. Sit down, write an article, not an article, a little essay. We limited it to 300 words. And you enter for a chance to win a free vacation. So we put that on the internet, or on the website. We put it in our newsletters. We told everybody about it. And we also opened it up to people who had never been there before. Imagine what your memories would be like. So we weren't just talking to our past guests. We were trying to get new guests in there and get them involved with the hotel. We also put it on all of our social media. We had public relations that went on. And this is an example of an integrated program, and it's working very well. And it's also getting people to sit down and actually think about your hotel, something that they would never do. This is what happened to the Somerset when we started launching the campaign. So the little circle in 2013 is when we launched the new website and all the email marketing, the public relations, and everything else behind it. In the 2.5 years afterwards, the revenue nearly doubled. This is the owners and the management's favorite chart. It's not my favorite chart. This is my favorite chart. Between the first and second years of the program, the iCRM program, total revenue increased 54%. The revenue that we were paying OTAs increased 39%. Well, that which we were getting direct, which is profitable, non-commissional revenue, almost doubled what was going on with the OTAs. And before, I didn't say it before, but really before we were hired, they were becoming increasingly dependent upon the OTAs. They needed to break their addiction to the OTAs. One final chart for the Somerset. When we had them to begin with, they were number 29 out of 43 hotels in Providenciales. Just last week, they were number 6. So what happened in that whole period of time, which was really great, because the owners of the property were looking for revenue, they decided to turn some of that revenue into training. They hired more staff. They brought in Forbes to do training. So all of a sudden, the product started getting better and better and better. And it sort of feeds on one another. You're getting more revenue, you're spending more money on your personnel, which we were talking before, and the training and things like that, everything to make it a 5-star experience. So it was working. Let me quickly, oh boy, I got a lot of time here. I've been talking fast. I did this morning, it was 25 minutes, and I've got 3 minutes left. Okay, this is Jamaica Inn. This is an older hotel, about 60 rooms, on its own Crescent Beach in Ocho Rios in Jamaica. Rooms there go for anywhere from $300 to $1,800 a night. This is a veranda suite, a deluxe veranda suite. I'm here standing in the room. This is my veranda. It's all with overstuffed chairs. You can just step right over onto the beach and you're about 2 seconds from the water. It's a beautiful place and it's doing very well. It was doing very well. It was, when they hired us, they were the #1 hotel out of almost 300 hotels in Jamaica. #1 on TripAdvisor, but they weren't doing very well. Here was their sales. So back in, it's interesting because you go back, oh, I lost the dates on that. So 2008 is on the far left. Yes, your left. They started losing sales before the Great Recession hit. They dropped down to 70% of what they were before the recession. And then they came out of the recession, and they were sort of bumping along. But at this point in time, 2012, they still had not gotten back to where they were 5 years before. That would be okay if the price of water and electricity and staffing and everything else had remained the same as well, but they had all gone up. So they were squeezed in terms of the profits. That's when they called us in. And we did a program for them as well. And over the course of the next 3 years, they saw, this is the #1 hotel in Jamaica, saw an increase of nearly 60% in terms of revenue. In conclusion, OTAs are both beneficial and have the potential to be detrimental to your fiscal health. Maximizing customer loyalty is your hotel's best defense. Focus on the way to getting to being most profitable, which is creating loyal customers, as opposed to focusing on nothing but driving sales. Treat your customers like you would want to be treated yourself. Effective iCRM opens up lines of communications. It has to. It can't work without it. And it requires, I didn't mention this before, it requires direct marketing professionals. As you saw earlier, the very foundation of iCRM is the centralized database. You need to know how to capture that information, and your agency needs to know how to use it. Direct marketing is not advertising. Direct marketing is a science. There's certain disciplines that you have to understand in order to really make it work. Because what you want to do is you want to get people to raise their hand and eventually make them a customer. Direct marketing knows how to get people to raise their hand. iCRM is a proven successful marketing approach, certainly in the US. It drives profitable, non-commissionable revenue, and it builds loyal advocates. With that, muito obrigado.